So I think everyone is here. If not, then they'll pop up and I'll let them in. But I think everyone that we need to get started is here. This is a employee grievance appeal. It's being conducted pursuant to Section 5.7 of the LAJC Employee Handbook. And I will just quickly read that provision into the record so everyone is clear on what we're doing here. An employee who has been discharged, demoted, or suspended without pay shall have the right to appeal their discipline to the Board Grievance Committee, which is an ad hoc committee of the Board of Directors gathered for the purpose of addressing the appeal. Membership on the committee is to be determined by the board president. And I'll just interrupt here to say that Chin Lei and Christy Kelly of the Board of Directors are with me. And Omari, I'm not sure if we've ever met in person, but I'm Ted Howard, and I'm currently the chair of the board.
Oh, okay.
Such appeal must be requested within 5 business days after the employee receives written notice of the discipline. Within 30 calendar days of the receipt of the appeal, the Board Grievance Committee shall conduct a hearing, issue a written decision on their findings, and send copies of their decision, which is binding on all parties, to the executive director and the aggrieved employee. The employee shall have the right to representation by a person of their choosing, excluding current employees of the Legal Aid Justice Center, cross-examination of witnesses, and the testimony of any Legal Aid Justice Center employee or other individuals. The formal rules of evidence shall not apply. The decision of the Board Grievance Committee is final and not subject to any further review or appeal. So those are the ground rules. Omari, you were notified of LAJC's decision to terminate you on February 26th, and you appealed the decision on March 3rd. So that means that subsequent to today's hearing, we will have 1 week within which to issue our decision, and you'll have it by close of business next Friday. I had circulated an email to all of the relevant players on March 17th, and I indicated in that email that procedurally we will go as follows. Omari, you will have the opportunity to make an opening statement, and that can be followed by LAJC's opening statement. Each side's statement will be limited to 15 minutes. Then LAJC will present its evidence describing the basis for the discipline, and you may cross-examine, or if you have questions for whoever it is that makes that presentation, you may, you're permitted to ask those questions and get answers. And then subsequent to LAJC's presentation, you will have the opportunity to present evidence, and LAJC will have the opportunity to cross-examine. LAJC provided its written evidence and a statement regarding its position by close of business, as of the close of business last Friday. I think it was March 20th, and you provided evidence on March 24th, copies of some text messages and emails, and you also some other documents from your employee file, and you also indicated a desire to be able to question Heather Brown and Clay Warner, and they will be available to answer whatever questions you have. After all of the evidence has been submitted, if there are any questions from the panel, we will proceed with those questions to either side. That will be followed by closing arguments from each side, subject again to 15 minutes limitation. And we will not accept any post-hearing submissions orally or in writing unless we've requested that. Is everybody clear on the procedures and what we're about to do?
Yeah, I think so.
Sure. Thank you. All right then. We will end. We have allotted 4 hours for this to conclude by 2 p.m. Obviously, we don't have to go that long if it doesn't take that long. But we will, obviously take breaks from time to time to make sure that, everyone is comfortable. And if anyone feels like they need a break, just let me know, and we'll, at the next, easy breaking point in the proceedings, we'll do that. All right. Subject to that, Omari, if you'd like to make your opening statement, please proceed.
Okay, I'm going to read from a statement that I wrote.
Sure.
First, thank you for having me, everyone here that's on the board, on the committee. I apologize to everyone that had to view the statements from Fannie, those defamatory and false statements that Fannie sent out to LAJC colleagues of mine and to the board. Those are the statements that were included on the termination letter. I think it's going to be it's going to be challenging for you all to come up with an unbiased opinion right now after you've already been prejudiced by those statements that are false and defamatory. I think that the whole way the termination was carried out was at least unprofessional and at the most retaliatory and malicious. And that includes Fannie disseminating those false statements that she knows were false because she was in the meeting when I was speaking to her. I don't think that this investigation was a real investigation. It was just something intended to solidify LAJC's posture and the premature conclusions that they had drawn, I guess through Fannie. Even up until this morning, my access to the submission documents, the link, it was removed. I was unable to, I had to email Fannie this morning for some reason that, because the download was disabled to it, so I have to go online to the link every time if I want to see the documents, but my access to that had been removed when I tried to check it this morning. But Fannie did send me a hard copy. So what's going on right now is I'm being targeted by Ms. Davis in an online harassment and defamation campaign. She told dozens of lies about me online, talked about my child, talked about my parenting. To anyone paying attention, it's clearly not about a video or online recording or whatever she's trying to make it seem about. For at least a week straight, she posted daily videos taunting me and celebrating her new followers that she had gained from the popularity of the defamatory videos. And apparently that's impossible for Fannie to believe, despite me telling her that. And I provided her names of people who could disprove some of the allegations that were in that termination letter. So in my opinion, Fannie is essentially assisting Ms. Davis in this defamation campaign by further disseminating comments to the board. I don't know why those statements had to go out. I don't even know why they're in the termination letter. I can't take that termination letter to anyone with what the content that's in there. So just to give some background, from fall of 2025 to around December of 2025, I was meeting with the consultants. Monday Morning Consultants is a group, I don't know if you guys are aware, that they came in and did an equity report on LAJC, and they determined that there was anti-blackness and misogyny throughout the organization. And so we all have been working with them like monthly and trying to correct the culture at LAJC. So during that period of time, I was meeting with them on an individual basis with Naireen, the HR ombudsman, and my supervisor, and I was talking to them about incidents between me and Jeff Jones, who is the the director of communications. So he's a high level executive there, and my program director had witnessed some of the stuff that had occurred, but she wasn't doing anything. Catherine Cohn, she didn't do anything about it. I kept meeting with these people, talking to them, telling them what was going on, and nothing ever changed. No one ever, the hostility and the passive aggressiveness, his willful unhelpfulness was just continuing. And up until like January 14th, when he said something that I felt was pretty racist and biased towards me. And so at that point, the HR ombudsman and my supervisor suggested that I request an HR investigation. And I spoke to other colleagues about it, and they said, "Oh, Jeff," they said, "You know, that's Angela's buddy." And I said, "No, I didn't know that." And they said, "Yeah, he like reports directly to her." And I thought that was a little odd that he reports directly to her. But when I was told, "Oh, that's Angela's buddy," it kind of made, I was like, "Oh, well, maybe that's why nothing has been happening when I've been making these complaints." And so in early February, me, Fanny, and Clay met, and I told them about, several incidents, like going back like 18 months. I think it was maybe like 6 to 9 different incidents, and I sent them screenshots and emails and everything. But during this meeting, or when I requested the HR investigation, because of the the culture that's going on, I didn't feel like that they would be able to be, Fanny and people in HR that are close with Jeff would be able to have an unbiased investigation. So I asked for an independent investigation when I sent the email to them. And then in that meeting, I said, are you going to do an independent investigation? And Fanny said, well, we have ways to make it independent. Like we could have some staff not not be a part of the investigation and stuff like that. And I said, well, yeah, because, I think it should be independent because Clay was involved with an incident involving Jeff, and I don't feel like the resolution, it wasn't helpful. And so I said, yeah, I think it should be an independent investigation. And I never heard anything back from Fanny or Clay about that after that. I never heard anything about the investigation or anything that was going to be done. And so then, and I can, there's a lot of more details, but for the sake of time, that's basically what was going on. And so that was early February when we all met. And then February 16th, I had noticed that I couldn't log into the UKG system, and someone texted me and said, hey, your phone isn't working. And so my phone wasn't working, and I couldn't get into any of the LAJC systems. And so when I checked my personal email, there was a email from Fanny or Angela. I can't remember who it was from. It was Angela or Fanny, and it said that there were, quote, credible allegations of serious misconduct against me, and that I would be suspended pending an investigation. And I didn't know what investigation meant. I don't know if that meant like a police investigation or HR investigation. So the next day after, and they didn't like send me the allegations or anything, but the next day after that, I emailed Fan and I said, well, I'm happy to assist with an investigation, because I was kind of wondering like what's going, like why are they suspending me without even talking to me? And what is this investigation, what's it about? So I said, well, I'm happy to assist. And then after that, a few hours later, Fanny said, oh, okay, well, let's schedule a meeting. And so she said, well, let's schedule it on this such and such date. I can't remember when it was. And I said, I have to see my therapist, and this is a lot going on right now, whatever, and I'll see my therapist. I have an appointment already scheduled with her Tuesday, so I can speak with you right after that if that's okay. And so she said, Fanny replied, yes, we'll accommodate you this time, but if you can't make it to the next one, then we're just gonna have to proceed without you. And I felt like that was a little messed up because I thought that we were trying to schedule a meeting. Like I didn't know that I was being accommodated. Like I thought because the way that it was worded is, oh, if that doesn't work for you, let us know. And I let them know, and then I was, basically threatened that I wouldn't be able to participate in the investigation if I couldn't make it to that one. And so when and then I responded to Fanny, well, what are the allegations? And Fanny responded to me with a hyperlink to that went to a Facebook page, and it was the account of Miss Davis, but it didn't go to like any specific video or any specific picture or whatever or anything. I actually couldn't even like open it. Like I could tell from the address that the hyperlink went to that it was just like to the base page of an account. And but I could when I clicked on it, I could not see it because Miss Davis, I believe, has me blocked on Facebook, and so I couldn't. I don't even know what, but I mean, I know it went to the base page anyway, so it really wouldn't have given me any information anyway. And I felt like that was unprofessional. Like I was just wondering, like, who does that? Who sends a Facebook link? Like I didn't. I felt like if it were me, I would have downloaded the video or downloaded whatever and sent it to someone. But if it were me, I would have responded and said what the allegations were, not just send someone a link to a Facebook page. And so I felt like she was being like willfully unhelpful at that point. And after the like I said, I was basically threatened to not be able to participate in it, the way that the suspension had happened or whatever, and I felt like it was kind of aggressive. So at that point I was just like, oh, she's not trying to be helpful or whatever, so whatever, I'll just talk to them when at the meeting. And so on February 24th we met. Early on in the meeting I told Fanny that I wasn't able to access the video, or I didn't know if it was a video or not. I didn't know if it was supposed to go to a video or like a picture or something. But so then Fanny asked if I had a sexual relationship with Miss Davis. I was uncomfortable with the question. I felt like people have spouses at LAJC and spouses that work at agencies and organizations that we partner with, and no one's asking them if you guys are having sex or are you not having sex. And so Fanny said that that wasn't the part of the misconduct allegation, that it just provided context for the actual misconduct. And so, yeah, I told her, I didn't want to talk about my personal life, but I'm happy to discuss the whatever the allegation that is the misconduct at work. And so most of what was in that investigative report was true. I think it said, I'll just go through the true things. I did tell Fanny that Miss Davis got upset because I was rejecting her advances. I told her that I told Fanny that Miss Davis had been texting me, trying to see me on a personal level. I told her I never kept her out of meetings, and Miss Davis believed that me and Kiera Harris were conspiring to keep her out of meetings, and that I was canceling meetings because I didn't want to see her. I told Fanny that wasn't true. I told her I didn't say anything to Miss Davis about her daughter's representation. I told Fanny that I said something to that effect to another community member, and I specifically told Fanny, like, I'm not sure exactly what it was that I said, but I could go to my text messages. And I told her that I'm aware that someone has been posting screenshots supposedly of text messages of our conversations, and I said, the ones that I saw that people sent to me, that they were edited, and there was information missing, and they were stuff was deleted, and but those were sent to me, and so those were the ones that I saw. And I said, I'm not sure the ones that you're talking about, you're referencing, but the ones that I've seen, they were edited. And so at that point during the meeting, that was on February 24th. Fanny started showing me screenshots. One of them I recognized. The other ones, I was just like, I don't recognize that. Like, I don't know if it was AI or Photoshop or what. I didn't recognize those text messages. And so I told them that. And Fanny asked if there was anyone else that they should contact in their investigation. I said, oh, yeah, Kiara, definitely. Definitely you should talk to Kiara. And so, just for the sake of time, I could move forward to the termination letter. When I received the termination letter, I was immediately like angry because I knew that the statements that were in it were not true. And it was like some of them were lies, and then it was like misrepresentations of the context of my answers. And I was just I was really like blown at the arrogance of white people to think that you can just lie on someone in a professional context as if we can't record conversations in Virginia. As if, as if that's why we have body cams right now. And that's why a black man who is having a conversation with a white woman executive at Legal Aid Justice Center would feel the need to record the conversation while they're having it, because people will come back and lie. So when I went,
You have you've used up 15 minutes. Do you have much more, or
um, not much more. Just that, um, Fanny's statement, it reads as though like that I was looking at screenshots and I said, "Oh, this is edited. This isn't the whole conversation." But that didn't happen. I told them that I was talking to several different members of the group that morning when Miss Davis was posting this stuff. Several different members of the group that she organizes with were contacting me and saying, "Yeah, we need to do damage control and everything." And then that's when we were having the conversation about representation. But I never said legal aid is not going to represent you or not going to represent your daughter. I never said that to her or to anyone. And yeah, so I mean, you said I've gone over time, so I don't want to. I never. When I went back and listened to the recording, at no point did I ever tell Fanny that I had a sexual relationship with that woman. I never told her that I recorded any videos, whether consensual or non-consensual. I never said any of that to her. So I don't know why. Well, I know why. She's constructing a narrative that makes it look like the real allegation is more believable.
okay? Thank you. Which of you, Fanny, is going to make the opening statement for LAJC? Catherine.
I will be. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm sorry that we're here today, but I'm glad we're proceeding with this appeal. That's obviously the right of Omari. At LAJC, every organizer is expected to, quote, cultivate authentic relationships grounded in trust, respect, and collaboration with communities and their leadership, as well as to consistently honor the dignity of every community member. In fact, a common saying within LAJC is that to do our work in the most authentic and impactful way possible, we must, quote, move at the speed of trust. When trust is broken with community members and clients, the work suffers, LAJC's reputation suffers, but more importantly, the very clients and communities we serve suffer, all of whom are people already directly impacted by oppressive and racially inequitable systems. Omari Al-Gaddafi is a talented former organizer of LAJC and activist who is well known in the Richmond community and even more so in Richmond public housing communities. Until recently, I can attest to the fact that a lot of his organizing work spoke for itself, offering examples of what power building by directly impacted people can look like. That said, Mr. Al-Gaddafi's decisions to enter into a sexual relationship with Miss Sylvia Davis, a public housing resident and member of the Gilpin Informed Residents Tenants Group, as well as record Miss Davis during their physical interactions, while also suggesting she might not be represented by LAJC should she speak out about his conduct, it severed the trust he and LAJC had built with her, and to some extent, violated the trust created with the greater Gilpin Court resident community. Ms. Davis was also a client at the time that Ms. Al-Qaddafi engaged in this misconduct. Here, the very person responsible for trust with community members violated that trust by abusing his position of power and influence as an organizer. This occurred not only when Mr. Al-Qaddafi entered into an inappropriate relationship with Ms. Davis, but also and especially when he recorded her and stated to a different community leader that LAJC might, quote, decide to no longer represent Ms. Davis if she spoke out against him. These instances constitute a serious misuse of power and are examples of how Mr. Al-Qaddafi's actions have significantly damaged LAJC's ability to conduct its mission-driven work of organizing and building power with directly impacted communities and rendered him ineffective in his role. More to the point of this appeal, Mr. Qaddafi's actions are a direct violation of LAJC's core values and reflect great departure of a basic position competency of any organizer, which is to forge collaborative relationships built on trust with community members. Like any organizer at LAJC, Mr. Al-Qaddafi was well acquainted with LAJC's values and competencies, and the documentation we have shared with you shows this. In sum, the corroborated evidence comprised Facebook posts by Ms. Davis, including text exchanges between her and Mr. Al-Qaddafi, as well as admissions by Mr. Al-Qaddafi, will show that he entered into a sexual relationship with Ms. Davis, recorded their physical interactions, and made statements suggesting he could influence the representation LAJC had provided to her and her daughter. Each of these actions in their own right, and certainly these actions when viewed jointly, are sufficient to warrant termination. Finally, the decision here aligns with prior termination decisions where LAJC determined that violations of trust by an organizer rendered them ineffective in their position and unable to build relationships with community members. What's more, the public nature of the allegations in this case only amplifies the problem, and as a result, we contend that no other measure but termination would be appropriate to address the resulting serious breach in trust and abuse of power. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Okay, we're going to get started then, moving on to LAJC's presentation of evidence in support of its termination decision.
Thank you, Ted. I will go ahead and present the evidence. Before I get started, I want to say a couple of things regarding access to the files. Mr. Omari did confirm earlier in the week that he was able to access the files. Ms. Kelly also had issues accessing the files, and we had several email exchanges going back and forth. So it could have been that in my attempts to give Ms. Kelly access and providing links that I may have created or generated a different link for, which caused access issues for Mr. Omari. As soon as I received the message from Omari this morning about his access, I went ahead and just gave him the PDF of the information. I would also like to respond about the language that